The sirens didn't bother Elias Mercer anymore. 20 years as the city's hostage negotiator had taught him that the real alarm bell was silence. When an apartment hallway fell so quiet, you could hear the dust drifting. That kind of silence meant the captor had decided something, and your window to change his mind was closing. Tonight, though, a different sound pulled Elias from his focus. The soft rasp of a courier's envelope sliding under the police line tape around the stairwell. A rookie officer retrieved it, glanced at the bold black scrawl. For Elias, now, and hurried it over. The envelope contained a single sheet of yellowed paper. On it, in bright wax crayon, was the crooked sketch of a sycamore tree, 2 stick figures beside its trunk, and a red sun half hidden behind the branches. Elias felt the ground tilt. He recognized the drawing. He had made it when he was 7, sitting cross-legged on the splintered porch of a foster home in rural Michigan, waiting for a social worker who never came. He remembered the exact moment the red crayon snapped in his fist. He had never shown that picture to anyone. It went from the porch floor to the trash can the same afternoon. Yet here it was, an artifact from a memory no one else could have witnessed. The hostage-taker inside the apartment, a middle-aged delivery driver named Stephen Rattray, had no obvious connection to Elias. He'd taken his ex-wife and their teenage daughter at gunpoint 2 hours earlier after she told him her new boyfriend was moving in. There was nothing in Rattray's file to link him to Michigan or to Elias's childhood. But the envelope bore no postage. It had been hand-delivered. Whoever was engineering this crisis was physically present, close enough to slip the drawing through the cordon. Elias swallowed, folded the paper, and placed it in his jacket pocket. He forced his voice into the calm cadence that could trick a man with a shotgun into believing in hope. 2 hours later, Rattray's hostages walked out unharmed, tears streaking their cheeks. Rattray surrendered, shaking. The moment the cuffs clicked, Elias's gaze swept the crowd beyond the barricades. No one stared back with triumph or mischief. The watcher, if he'd been there at all, had melted away. 3 nights later it happened again. A barricade, a sweating gunman, and a courier envelope addressed to Elias. This time the paper inside showed a closet drawn in childish perspective. Walls bending, stars glued to the ceiling, a flashlight beam cutting the dark. It was an exact duplicate of a scene Elias had sketched the year he turned 8, hiding from drunken shouting downstairs. He had forgotten the picture existed until this instant. A chill rippled over him. These weren't guesses or reconstructions. They were copies, down to the wrinkles in the paper where his small hands had creased it. Someone had found a window into memories he'd never recorded, never photographed, never spoken aloud. Someone was playing curator to the museum of his missing years. The second siege ended with another clean surrender. Again, the messenger vanished. Elias spent the night at his kitchen table, lights off, coffee growing cold. He searched every dusty box in his closet, hunting for any childhood notebooks he might have donated, sold, or lost. Nothing. At 3 a.m., he opened his locked drawer and removed the single photograph he kept from his biological mother. Her smile soft, her arm around a boy with wide gray eyes. Everyone assumed that boy was Elias. But the image was blurry, the edges stained with age, and something had always felt off, as if he were looking at a reflection that moved half a second out of sync. He dialed her nursing home. The overnight aide, polite but exhausted, said Margaret Mercer was awake, humming tunelessly, drifting in and out of lucidity. Alzheimer's had eroded most of her present day, leaving only shattered glints of the past. Elias hung up without asking what he wanted to ask. If his mother had answers, she wouldn't remember how to form them. The drawings kept coming. Week after week, new crime scenes. Always different captors. An opioid addict with a stolen pistol, a bankrupt contractor waving dynamite caps, a dishwasher perched on a rooftop threatening to jump. Each crisis bore a single common thread. An envelope slipped to Elias containing a relic from his own sealed mind. The cases concluded with no deaths, no injuries, no clear motive that tied the perpetrators to any mastermind. But the envelopes told their own story, and it was aimed squarely at him. Elias began to lose sleep. He caught himself staring at strangers' faces on subways, scanning for a familiar cheekbone, a lopsided grin. Once, glimpsing his reflection in a rain-blurred window, he startled, certain for a heartbeat that the man staring back was someone else. Someone almost him. Finally, he gathered courage and drove to the nursing home. Margaret sat near a bay window, papery hands folded, humming an old lullaby. When she saw him, her eyes brightened, then turned cloudy with confusion. "Mama," he said after the small talk burned away, "I need to ask about my childhood." Her gaze drifted across his face like a leaf on water. "Did I have learned about an imaginary friend once?" he tried. "Someone named Jonah or Gabriel?" At the name Gabriel, she winced, as though a needle had pricked her skin. "You promised." She broke off, fingers fluttering to her lips. "No, I promised. They said better for you to forget. Safer." "Who did?" He leaned forward. "Mom, please. I think someone's targeting me. People are in danger." Margaret's eyes watered. "Your brother," she whispered. "My bright boys. 2 sons, but one burned too hot." Elias's breath caught. He remembered pediatric charts listing him as an only child. Not once had adoption papers, medical records, or school forms referenced siblings. But his mother was talking as if the absence had always been a lie. "Twin," she said, voice breaking. "Born first, by 6 minutes. They took him when the scissors, blood on your father's arm. They said he needed help." She shuddered. "He kept hearing things that weren't spoken, seeing pictures in people's heads." A memory flashed. A pair of small feet dragging a kitchen chair across linoleum, clambering onto the counter to reach scissors. Elias, as a boy, screaming. Their father rushing in. The scene had no face attached, only a howl of terror. He dismissed it as a nightmare, but Margaret's story painted in the missing faces. "Where did they take him?" he asked. "A clinic," she murmured. "Upstate, St. Eustace for exceptional youth. They said he'd be safe. Then a letter came. Fire in the ward, children lost. I thought, they told me he died. Maybe I wanted to believe." Elias sat motionless, pulse drumming in his ears. If his twin had the talent Margaret described, reading thoughts as images, then the envelopes made a twisted kind of sense. Someone was excavating Elias's private past as easily as breathing, then taunting him with the artifacts. A brother who felt abandoned might well choose this stage for reunion. He drove straight to police records and pulled everything on St. Eustace. The facility had shut down 15 years ago after allegations of abuse. Most files were sealed, but one slip of paper, misfiled under municipal zoning, listed a patient transfer 6 months earlier from the defunct hospital to a halfway house in the city. Name, Gabriel Mercer. No forwarding address, no discharge signed, merely the word "escaped" stamped in red. The room spun around Elias. He thought of all the siege perpetrators, loners, addicts, debt-ridden men, easy prey for a charismatic stranger offering purpose. He pictured Gabriel whispering memories to them, guiding their rage into scenarios that would summon Elias. Each scene a breadcrumb trail. A new call came in while he was still at his desk. 20 children and 3 teachers held hostage at the Seabright Aquarium, just off the Coast Highway. The captor demanded one negotiator only, Elias Mercer, and promised to kill a hostage for every police sniper he spotted. Elias knew before the dispatcher finished speaking. This would be Gabriel. The aquarium's lobby was vaulted glass, moonlight spilling across blue tanks where jellyfish pulsed like distant nebulae. SWAT cordoned the parking lot. Parents sobbed against barricades. Inside, somewhere among aquatic exhibits, a man of unknown temperament held 23 lives, including 6-year-olds who still smelled of finger paint. Elias strapped on the vest that marked him as the city's voice and walked past the line of red-blue patrol lights. The aquarium doors opened as if automated. The lights inside were dimmed to a dreamlike glow. "Come alone," a voice echoed over the lobby speakers. No wires, no gun. Elias removed his sidearm, left it in a plastic bin by the entrance, and stepped through the turnstile. The doors sealed behind him with a hydraulic hiss. In the middle of the lobby stood a folding table bearing a single object, a child's shoebox with cartoon rockets printed on the lid. Elias lifted it. Inside lay his entire childhood, in miniature. Tiny crayons, a paperclip bent into the shape of a fish, a plastic watch with the minute hand snapped. Things he had not seen in 3 decades yet recognized instantly. His throat tightened. I kept them safe, the overhead voice said, even when you forgot I existed. Gabriel, Elias called. A silhouette emerged on the mezzanine above the Stingray pool. Same height, same bone structure, though thinner, as if his features had been whittled by a harsher wind. His hair was shaved close on one side, long on the other, dark eyes glittering. Strapped to his waist was a remote detonator wired to canisters lining the curved banister. You remember my name, Gabriel said, sounding pleased. That's progress. Where are the children? In the Dolphin Theater. Sleeping powder in the vents. Harmless, I promise. Their teacher and I are watching cartoons with the sound off. She's learning a great deal about herself. He touched his temple in demonstration. Elias forced his breathing steady. Why involve innocent people? If you wanted my attention, you had it months ago. Gabriel laughed softly. You negotiate for strangers every day. But for family, that's new ground. What do you want? To finish a story. Gabriel leaned over the railing, eyes bright with hunger. You left me behind. They drugged me, strapped electrodes to my skull, called me a hazard, all while you went to Little League and birthday parties. His voice cracked on the word parties, as if it still tasted foreign. I watched it through their memories, the nurses, the orderlies. I saw you grow, but I could never speak back. I didn't know, Elias said. They told Mom you died. Convenient. Gabriel's smile chilled Elias. But I don't want apologies. I want the sycamore tree. Elias blinked. The one from the drawing? Our ark, Gabriel replied. We buried something there, remember? A time capsule. It has my half of our life. I can't reach it. Too many ghosts. You will dig it up tonight. Bring it here. Then I let them go. The sycamore was 70 miles north, on the abandoned property of their foster home, slated for demolition. Getting there and back before sunrise was impossible without police aid, which Gabriel would never allow. And the hostages lay in chemical sleep, the detonators real. So Elias gambled everything on a different plan. What if I remember instead? He asked. Gabriel tilted his head. You can't. They erase those days from you. Then pull them out. Elias opened his hands. You have the gift. Read me. Skip the drawings. Take what you need directly, and let the children walk. Silence swelled. Water lapped against tempered glass. Finally, Gabriel descended the stairs, each step deliberate. He stopped a few feet away, hands twitching as if adjusting invisible knobs. It hurts, he warned. For both of us. I accept. Gabriel placed 2 fingers on Elias's forehead. Ice shot through Elias's skull. Images detonated. A flashlight beam across closet monsters. Scissors glinting red. A younger Gabriel sobbing, clutching Elias's hand as men in white coats dragged him away. A cracked window, smoke, sirens. Emotions poured like acid. Abandonment, terror, love so fierce, it scorched. Elias's knees buckled, but he stayed upright. He needed Gabriel to see something else, something buried deeper. The hospital corridor where 5-year-old Elias shouted for his twin until his voice bled. An orderly gripping his shoulders, telling him Gabriel was sick, dangerous. The orderly's words etched in a child's mind. He'll hurt you if you stay. Gabriel flinched. His breath came ragged. They lied to us both, he whispered. Yes, Elias said, voice hoarse. I was scared. I forgot to protect you. Tears streaked Gabriel's cheeks. His fingers tore away from Elias's brow as if burned. The detonator hung slack in his other hand. "I don't want to be this," he said. "Then don't." Elias placed a palm over his brother's fist. "Give me the trigger." Minutes later, the aquarium doors opened. SWAT streamed in. Medics rushed the theater. Children carried out drowsy but unharmed. Officers cuffed Gabriel gently. Elias stayed beside him, murmuring assurances like a lullaby. At dawn, sitting in the back of an ambulance, Gabriel stared at the rising sun with a wonder that looked almost childlike. "What happens now?" he asked. "You'll have treatment," Elias said. "Real treatment, not cages. I'll be there." "You'll stay?" Gabriel's voice quavered. "Every visiting hour," Elias promised. A medic approached with a blanket. Gabriel let it settle on his shoulders, watching his twin with wary hope. "Did you really bury a time capsule under that sycamore?" Elias asked. Gabriel smiled sadly. "Probably squirrels ate it, but maybe that's okay. We're still here." They sat in silence while emergency lights dimmed and parents hugged their children. The aquarium behind them, sighing like a leviathan, returned to sleep. In the mirror of an ambulance window, Elias saw their reflections side by side. Two faces almost identical except for the histories written in lines around the eyes. Two halves of one story, finally read aloud. And for the first time since the envelopes began arriving, Elias felt the hush of dawn was not the silence of dread, but of possibility.